वर्ल्ड इकोनोमिक फोरमले केही समय अघि मात्रै यङ ग्लोबल लिडर्स भनेर विश्वभरबाट 90 जना युवाहरूलाई छानेको थियो। नेपालले पनि गर्व गर्न सक्ने गरी एकजना नेपाली युवा उद्यमी यसमा पर्नु भएको छ। 40 वर्ष मुनिका यङ ग्लोबल लिडर्सका रूपमा रिलायन्स ग्रुप नेपालका निर्देशक तथा अवसर इक्विटीका अध्यक्ष लोकेश तोदी सन् 2024 का लागि यसका लागि छनौट हुनुभएको छ र आज हामीसँग लोकेश तोदी हुनुहुन्छ। बिजमान्डुका तर्फबाट यहाँलाई हार्दिक स्वागत छ।
नमस्ते।
भर्खरै मैले यहाँको सानो परिचय दिएँ। अब नेपालको एकजना उद्यमी अनि लामो समय बाहिर पढेर बाहिर नै करियर बनाएर फर्किनु भएको र हालसालै यो अब विशेष अवसर यहाँले जुन प्राप्त गर्नुभएको छ, यसलाई सारांशमा यहाँसम्मको यात्रालाई यहाँले कसरी लिनुहुन्छ?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. Since I was 6 years old, I was in a boarding school in India, and I went to an international school there. And for a very long time, I didn't have roots in Nepal. So because I was in boarding school throughout, I used to come for a vacation, then go back. And then I studied in America, I studied in Australia, I did my MBA in America as well. And I only returned to Nepal when I was 27 years old. So like for 25 years, I didn't have much grounding in Nepal. But the opportunity in Nepal, the ability to work in my family, to be back with them, was something that drew me back here. And that's when I decided to come back. So it's been around 10 years since I've been back, and I have been very, very happy that I made that decision. I always feel that there's been a lot of opportunities in Nepal. If you rewind back in 2014, when I came back to Nepal, Nepal was actually going through a huge transformational change, right? We used to at that time have blackouts for 18 hours. It was very hard to work, especially in running an industry in Nepal. But you also saw a huge turnaround. You saw that Nepal was at its sort of bottom at that time, and you saw that there was going to be a way that will be, if we can come out of it, there'll be a really great way. And then we had the earthquake, then we had the blockade, and during that time we also had the Constitution of Nepal made. So within the 2 years of my return, a lot of things changed. And after electricity came back to Nepal, we had the huge mergers of banks, and which allowed a lot of capital to flow into Nepal. And you saw this massive growth in terms of Nepal's infrastructure, in terms of Nepalese people willing to spend money on goods. And so I have always thought that Nepal has huge opportunity. Otherwise, I would not have returned. A lot of people say that we returned because of our parents. We also returned because we saw an opportunity in Nepal. Nepal, I still think, is a country which has a huge opportunity to grow. We are still in a very nascent stage of our democracy. It takes time for any democracy to work. And so we are still in the figuring out stage. And Nepal has this great tailwind behind us. We just have to capture it properly. I think it's so important to bring what we have learned, right? Our parents, we were very lucky that our parents brought us up in a place and gave us the education that we got. And I think so it's very important for everyone, especially if you come from a business house, to work for someone else. Because you not only learn the best practices, but you also learn how to treat employees. You know how to, what works best for you. And I've been very lucky. We have a really good team here. So I've been able to come back and, bring the hardcore analysis part, which was missing, I think, from our family business, transform it into a more IT-based MIS systems or inventory systems that we have created in-house, made sure that everything works on your mobile phones, make sure that the marketing is done properly. But that being said, a lot of things were already laid out for us. Our family has already had such great name in the reputation in the market. We made sure the quality was ensured. So what we did was just augment what was already here and established. So I'll not take credit for things that my parents had done. And Officer Equity was a unique opportunity that came up. In 29 SIF regulations were written in Nepal, and at that time we were thinking like how to get into this. And we work with a lot of partners in this, the KD organization being one of them. And Manoj Kedia, who's also acted as a mentor to me, he told me that, why don't you look into this and let's take it forward from there. अनि हाम्रो अवसर इक्विटीमा we have 4 banks, हाम्रो Sanima Bank, Kumari Bank, Siddharth Bank and Nepal Bank and other high net worth individuals, and we have come together to make sure that equity which is sometimes missing in the market can be provided, so people can take more ambitious projects in Nepal and not worry about interest. So you have to look at it from a perspective that first you have to thank people who have set it up, right? So we had people like Dolma Fund and smaller other funds like DO2, as well as some Nepalese-based funds that had started before the SIF regulations were started. So it had given a concept to the regulators in Nepal. So we have to thank the people that had started it. SIF regulation is governed by SEBON, and it has a stringent workplace put into it to safeguard the investors as well as the investee companies. I think it's very important for private equity. For something that, since we have come back, a lot of people have said that there's foreign direct investments missing in Nepal, right? And if you look at India, 80% of all the FDI that comes into India comes through private equity channels. Why is that happening? Because if an investor wants to invest in India, they don't want to go through the hassle of opening a company, closing a company, exiting a company, but they don't mind investing in a fund, right? So that's what we are capable of doing. We want to take money from the investors outside in Nepal, put it in a fund, and then help the companies grow. Another big problem in Nepal is that our equity and debt portion is very high. So the debt in most of the companies are around 70% compared to the equity. So the interest burden is very high. So if you have external shocks like the earthquake or the blockade, it really affects the businesses because we don't know, or like even COVID, right, how to make interest payments. However, if you have equity, instead of having and have less debt burden, the companies have the long-term horizon. And we can prepare the companies to make bold bets and not worry about short-term gains. So I think in the future, there'll be a lot of more private equity company coming up. I think this is very important for the private equity ecosystem in Nepal to be very thriving. And, the more players that there are here, the ecosystem will be built up, and it will allow entrepreneurs in Nepal to make things in Nepal and really benefit the country. Yeah, so as I was saying, I think a lot of people have this, they overestimate the short term and underestimate the long term. Right, as if you look at 2014, when I came back to Nepal, in the equity market, right, if you had 100 crore transaction in one day, it was a big deal, okay, right? Nowadays, you have even up to 2,000, 2,900 crores thing, and it's okay, right? So you have seen 29x in just 10 years what is happening in the NEPC, right? So I think so the equity people or private equity has a long-term horizon, right? We know that the country is going to grow. There are going to be shocks in the middle, right? But you cannot worry about those shocks. You have to think from a long-term perspective. Secondly, the private equity is looking at creating real sectors to come into the Nepalese stock market. So if you looked at Nepal in general, there are only 3 sectors that are in the NEPC. You have the insurance, you have banking, and you have hydropower, right? The real sector is not really present. You have some cement companies and some few hotels that are present, but very few. We think that the real sector is going to be very important. If you look at any equities around the world, you have manufacturing will be there, there'll be medical companies that will be there, we have construction companies that will be there, and we want to bring that to Nepal as well, right? For that to happen, a private equity system is very, very important. In terms of policy changes, I think so SEBON has done a really good job so far. They have allowed us to come in a small way to establish ourselves. There will be changes that will be required, but the private equity association that is here, that's the best way to move that forward. There are a lot of things that require changes, especially in terms of foreign investments. How are we going to get them in? There will be changes that will be required to the FITA laws in Nepal for that to happen. But those are slow changes. I think so the first change is to make sure that our private equity associations in Nepal are doing good investments, are making sure that the shareholder value is created, to make sure that real manufacturing jobs in Nepal are created, or real sector is then represented in the stock market. So this is a change that's going to happen gradually. We have started a couple of years ago. There are other private equity players who have come in, and I hope in the next 7-8 years you'll see a lot more funds that come in, and a lot of more manufacturing and real sectors that are listed in the stock market. It will not only help with the employment of the country, but it will also allow us to be self-dependent instead of having to get imports from outside. I think there are two or three things that play into it. One is that if the youth of Nepal is getting a better opportunity outside, I don't blame them to take that opportunity, right? It's very important for them to have that exposure, right? And a lot of them will return at some point. It might be because of family ties, it might be because they have expertise there, but now they want to bring that expertise back to Nepal. So I don't see that as a big issue in terms of people going away. I think so it'll become a very big issue if people don't start coming back eventually. And you had this problem or this issue all around the world. You know, you have countries, even India, you had massive migrations all around the world, right? But you saw India as a country flourish eventually. We are very lucky in one sense. Nepal is still a country which has 60% of its population, or the demographic dividends that we call it, who are under the age of 30, right? So we still have a lot of people who are here. Our economy, is, to be honest, is running because of people who are sending remittances back to us, close to $1 billion every month, right? So we are very dependent on that as well. Now the government also has to think from a long-term perspective, right? If we continuously lose youth to outside, and if they don't return back to Nepal, that is going to create a problem in various scenarios in terms of having labor opportunities in Nepal for our own manufacturing companies. Consumption will go down in Nepal. So these are places that will get affected. However, I think if the youth does come back, which I think they will, right? Because there are opportunities that will be created here. I think so there'll be a lot of opportunities because they're bringing skill sets that we are lacking. They're bringing resources that we are lacking, and they're making their name for themselves, and they're coming back here. So it's a double-edged sword. But for us to think that, you know, we should stop migration happening, I think that's a very illogical thing. I think so if there's an opportunity and a better opportunity for the youth, they will take that, and they should take that. How can we, the government and the private sector has to think, how can we provide them better services, right? And that will take some time because we are still a developing country. We still don't have the ability to pay for professional people as you would have in outside countries, right? However, as the country and the economy grows, that will change as well. So again, this is a little bit long-term play. It is concerning to a certain degree that people are not going to come back. But I think so it's okay for right now. I think so the government needs to be more focused on about like how do we ensure that first the migrants are getting a better services when they're going out, they're not getting exploited, and how can we get them back eventually, how can we reintegrate them into society. And so those are bigger questions to ask rather than like let's stop them, because that's not going to happen. So we are involved in 3-4 main areas. Our company does manufacturing. We are in the PVC flooring as well as non-woven and tufted flooring. And that market over time has grown. When we came in 2014, we established the first PVC company in Nepal, PVC carpet company in Nepal. And just a few months ago, we have another competitor who has come in. So the market has grown gradually, and we have created a very big market for that. Even in the non-woven and tufted carpet space, we were the first company that started this. Yeti Carpet is a very well-known brand, something that our partners as well as our parents have established a long time ago. So again, can't take credit for that, but we are making sure that the sales and channel partners understand our new strategy, make sure that our growth is happening because of that. We are very heavily involved in various financial institutions that's run all professionally. Even at Afsar Equity, we have a great team. I get the credit for being the chairman, but we have the management team who makes all the decisions. We are just there to support them. So we have always believed to have professional management that is set up, and our job is to make sure that the strategy or like guidance is provided to them. Because again, like as you were saying, the youth, right? The youth need to be empowered, right? So our management needs to be empowered. If we keep asking them small questions or like interfering with them, they themselves will not enjoy it, right? They require that freedom to work, and mistakes are going to happen in any organization, right? We just have to learn that how to minimize those mistakes. And so we have given in all our organization a lot of leeway or a lot of freedom to our managers, the professional team, to make those decisions. And the board is just there for oversight, for helping them with the guidance. So that's how we look at things. We are very bullish in Nepal. Otherwise, again, we would not be here, right? We would not have returned, or I would not have returned if you didn't think Nepal had a great opportunity. There are a lot of things that are there that are missing, but these are things that will, I think, so again, takes time and slowly come back, right? From policy level work is required, from the government involvement in certain laws are requirement. But again, we are a small and emerging democracy, which takes time for itself to get established. There are two ways to look at it, right? One is the private sector and one is the government sector, right? And I think so both are very important. The government sector is extremely important because the capital expenditure, right? Around 25 to 30% of our budget is spent on capital, or is supposed to be spent on capital expenditure. That is building roads, transportation networks, basic infrastructure for day-to-day things to happen. And that is super, super important, right? Without that infrastructure, the private sector will not thrive. Plus that construction activities and things that they do also play a big part in the circular economy that we are in. And then there's the private sector part, right? And the private sector is super important as well to make sure that the growth of Nepal happens, right? We can retain the youth here. We can come up with innovative ideas. I've written a lot of things regarding that Nepal has to figure out how to become a better exporter. A great thing that's going to happen in Nepal is the hydroelectricity is going to become one of our biggest export. It's already number 2 right now. I think so it's going to become number 1. And that's a great thing that we are doing, is that we are going to export things out and become a net exporter of certain items, which needs to happen. Because right now our number 1 export is manpower, right? And at some point that is not going to be there. So we need to figure out other resources, other avenues of getting export out. So manufacturing requires a lot of help from policy level point of view. And something to look at is that we are surrounded by 300 million people, right? And this is just south of us, we have 300 million people in the states that border Nepal. That's a huge market, right? If you told anyone outside that you have a 300 million captive audience, they would be really happy. Nepal's electricity is much cheaper than India. So manufacturing can actually be a very important thing. We just have to figure our road infrastructure out, our import duties out, how to sort of subsidize or how to help manufacturing grow. I think that's one great area. Something that is happening in Nepal already is the Fintech community is growing rapidly. I think that's in the IT sector, which is, I think, is a great opportunity, right? Again, for the youth to stay back in Nepal, there's a lot of opportunities that are coming up in the IT sector for that. Our financial or the fintech that's happening with the various institutions such as F1Soft, such as Khalti and all, they have really revolutionized payment systems, and I think they're better than some of the payment systems I've seen outside Nepal. So we should be very proud of that. And I think so remittance will continue to be a backbone of our economy for a while. We are getting around $1 billion. It really helps consumption in Nepal. Again, that's why I'm saying we should be very, very thankful for our migrant population who are going out there. And we should make sure that they are treated properly. I think that's a job that the government really needs to do. So those are the basic high-level things. If you go into policy details, there are a lot of things that we still have to work on. How to expedite things, how to get permits faster, how to get foreign direct investments flowing faster, how we can get the foreign direct investors more secure in terms of when they want to take the money out. Those things are at a law level is very much required, and those are policy things I think the government understands and will have to look at. I think there are two things. One is that I think Nepal has a great work-life balance, which is actually missing outside, right? When we used to work 14 hours, 16 hours a day. Work was everything, right? In Nepal, actually, I'm happy that that is not the case, to be honest. I think something that can be worked on, something that we can be better at, is that out there, if something was assigned or something was given to you, you made sure that was done, right? And it didn't matter how long it took. And sometimes in Nepal, we are a very 9-to-5 culture, right? We want to click in and click out, right? And that's okay for a long time. I think so it's good to have a family life as well. You don't have to work. But I think so it's also important to take ownership of work. And I think so at some points I find that missing in Nepal. So I think so, like if people can be better at that, I think so that's one place that. And second is to have the confidence of making decisions. I think a lot of time it's not only because of the employees, it's also actually the employers don't give that authority or that freedom to our employees to make decisions which hamper their own growth, right? So if you don't allow your employees, or the employee doesn't have the feel empowered to make decisions, it becomes a huge problem for them. So I think so that's a thing that I would really encourage for people to, like, like how can I make the company grow? Where am I finding shortages or like problems in the company, and how can I tell my boss how to make it better? And those kind of things were very encouraged outside. Like you might be the youngest person in the team, but your idea mattered, right? So you had the freedom to express yourself. And I think so the same thing here. There are a lot of things that the youth or the people who are coming in straight from college are really good at, right? It might be social media strategy, it might be like how to engage the youth, how to engage people around. So I think so that's very important for them to then voice it when they come to a corporate house. Sometimes they feel that if they say something or something that is happening, let it go. But I think so that should not be the case. I think so just take ownership of your job. I think that will allow you to go forward more. So the World Economic Forum chooses around 100 members every year. Last year was 90, and I was very lucky to be one of them that was selected by them. What the Young Global Leaders is a 3-year course, where you go and you meet people who have been selected, and you enhance your leadership skills, right? And they have various education modules that you can take part in all around the world. And then you also get to meet different leaders. And this is a little bit different from any other organization because you just don't have business people. You have people from civil society, you have politicians, you have business people, musicians. So you're learning from various leaders from across all sectors, right? And the whole point of the Young Global Leader is how to collaborate and help the country grow. In Nepal, we have 6 of us who are already here. And we have a small group. In India, it's a much larger group. There are more than 100, 150 young global leaders. And our thing is how to take leadership lessons that we learn from outside and institute in our organizations and help those organizations grow and bring best practices of leadership from outside the world. A clear example of how we can utilize this, or how I hope to utilize this, that I hope the connections that I make there will help the private equity system in Nepal grow. When I went to Geneva, and then we had actually a leadership conference of the young global leaders in Nepal very recently, we talked about the private equity system in Nepal. It's just 2 years old, and we wanted to explain to people like how they can be investors in Nepal, and how we can be stewards of their money. They can trust us, and how we can help Nepal grow. Because a lot of people from outside are actually looking into Nepal, and we want to give them the confidence, right? And if I am chosen by the World Economic Forum and other young global leaders trust me and are willing to invest in Nepal through me, that's something that's great for the country. It's great for me as well, but it's also great for the country. It's great for the private equity system here. And if we can have laws present in Nepal which allow their money to come in but also to go out, it will show confidence in other investors. So other private equity funds can also get money into Nepal. So that's one way that how we can use this platform. But the platform is basically to make sure that we get leadership skills and help our country through our organizations grow. See, like I'm speaking in English because my Nepali is really bad. I've been learning, but I'm not good enough for a conversation with you. So if I was responsible to go to meet the bureaucrats or things like that, I would not do a good job, right? Something that my parents would do better because they are better at it, right? So you have to realize what you're good at as well. If you took all the responsibilities, especially of things that you're not good at, it will create a huge issue. And I think so over time they trust you, right? I've come in and I've said that I'm good at these 3 things. Let me handle these 3 things. And if the results are good, they'll trust you more with those opportunities, right? So I think so a lot of youth that they come from outside have the thing that, oh, I know better than everybody else. I think so that's not the right attitude. I think so you need to learn and establish that trust from outside. It can be, I'm not talking about just family business, I'm just talking about everything in general. A lot of people have education from outside, and when they come in, they want to change everything. But you have to also understand the cultural context of Nepal. things out here cannot only operate how it worked in Australia, how it worked in the US. The cultural thing is also very important to understand. The sensitivities of people are very important to understand. And if you want to take leadership role immediately and have everything handed to you, I think that's also a big mistake, because then you're not learning from the people that have actually established. You're not learning or shadowing them and understanding where you can improve, or how can you adapt to the Nepal society or Nepal's environment. So I think so it's a hand-in-hand process. I think so the older generation is also willing to give the younger generation time, but we also have to understand as the younger generation that it's important to understand the history, the environment of why these businesses or these laws or this bureaucracy was created, how we can make it better, and how to work within the context that we are provided in. I think so we have to look at a 360-degree view instead of having a very singular or a textbook manner of leadership. Yes, so I think so. Nepal is in again very great state right now. We are seeing a lot of speaking from private equity point of view. We are seeing a lot of people in the technology sector, so IT side. We have companies here that are supplying even technologies to the US in both the media as well as in financial sector. So the technology boom in Nepal is something that's very real and something that we should harness, and the government should really figure out how to make sure that this, because it not only helps the youth here, it's great paying jobs, it's high skilled jobs, and we have great companies, and again these are dollar flows coming into Nepal, right? So we need to figure out policies on how to make things easier for these tech companies to thrive here. Second, we are seeing a lot of real sectors coming into Nepal. One of the companies that we have invested in is First Choice Food. It is making frozen potatoes, essentially French fries, right, in Nepal. This used to be imported in bulk from India and China and other places. Now we are producing that all in-house in Nepal, and very soon Nepal will be fully self-dependent on French fries that were being imported. And you're talking about lots of money that was going outside for a simple product like that, like agri product, right? So that's one of the companies that we are invested in. We have seen manufacturing sectors, especially in the electricity space, really growing. One of our strategic investments has been in Litmus cables. They are making another big manufacturing unit in Bizmandu that we have partnered with them in the private equity, again to help them grow and help them accelerate. They're already a very big household name, but we want to make sure that they get the best technology and they don't have to worry about short-term financing, and they can really have a long-term vision on things. So we are seeing massive investments in real sector. We are seeing massive investments in the IT sector in Nepal, and I think those are two very important sectors for Nepalese growth to happen. And those things are really going to really boost the country's economy in the coming days. So those are the two areas that I'm seeing, at least, that actually sectorial shift towards.
बाहिर देखेर आउनुभएको कुराहरूलाई अनि आफ्नो एक्सपर्टिजहरूलाई चाहिँ यहाँले जसरी नेपालमा आफ्नो कम्पनी मार्फत चाहिँ आफ्नो सोचलाई पनि इन्भेस्ट गरेर जे गरिराख्नु भएको छ त्यसले चाहिँ पक्कै पनि हाम्रो बिजनेस र इकोनोमीलाई राम्रो सकारात्मक प्रभाव पार्छ नै भन्ने हामीलाई लागेको छ। र यो जुन ग्लोबल लिडरको रूपमा पनि यहाँले अब आगामी दिनमा जति स्किलहरू अझै डेभलप गर्नुहुन्छ, एक्सपर्टिज हासिल गर्नुहुन्छ, त्यसबाट पनि नेपालले पक्कै पनि धेरै लाभ लिन सक्छ भन्ने लाग्छ। थ्याङ्क यू फर सेयरिङ योर इन्साइट विथ अस।
थ्याङ्क यू सो मच।